The Banshee of Ballynahinch, a dark tale of cursed blood. County Down, Ireland, winter 1683. In the shadowed depths of Ballynahinch Castle, where cold winds whistled through the crumbling stones, the once mighty Magennis clan lay in a slow, agonizing decline. The castle, perched on the edge of a dense forest and overlooking a swollen, murky river, had grown as bleak and desolate as the family it housed. Lord Eamon Magennis, the last of his name, was a man haunted not only by the ghosts of his ancestors, but by a curse that had plagued his bloodline for centuries. He was a figure hardened by time and guilt, his eyes haunted by the memory of his wife and children, lost to an untimely and mysterious death years before. The locals whispered that their demise was not due to natural causes, but the work of something darker, something beyond this world. As the long winter nights closed in, Eamon often found himself staring into the fire, his thoughts consumed by the legend that had become his reality. The Banshee, a spectral harbinger of death, whose mournful wails had echoed through the castle's halls for generations. Each wail was a promise of death, a dirge sung for the next unfortunate soul marked by fate. The Magennis curse was said to have begun centuries ago, when a scorned lover, Eine, a beautiful but vengeful spirit, was betrayed by one of Eamon's ancestors. Eine had been a healer and seer, revered and feared in equal measure until she was wronged. Legend held that she had been falsely accused of witchcraft and left to die in the cold, a death that froze the heart of the land itself. Her spirit, consumed by rage and sorrow, became the Banshee, an eternal mourner crying for the blood of the Magennis. One night, as the wind howled through the cracks in the castle's walls, a shriek like the tearing of fabric pierced the silence. The servants crossed themselves, their faces pale with terror. Lord Eamon, however, did not flinch. He had been expecting her. Summoning what little courage he had left, Eamon ventured into the castle's ancient chapel, now a ruin of broken pews and shattered stained glass. It was there, beneath the rotting rafters and among the dust of forgotten graves, that he confronted her. The Banshee stood before him, a figure of ethereal beauty wrapped in the tattered remnants of her burial shroud. Her eyes, hollow and black, held an emptiness that seemed to draw the very warmth from the air. Her long silver hair drifted around her like smoke, and her mouth twisted into a grim smile as she saw him.
"Why have you come?"
Eamon's voice was hoarse, his heart hammering in his chest.
"What more do you want from me?"
Her voice was a whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a sound that made the marrow in his bones turn to ice.
"I have come for what is owed, Eamon Magennis. Your bloodline's debt is not yet paid."
Desperate, Eamon fell to his knees.
"I am the last of my family. There is no one left but me. End this curse, I beg of you."
The Banshee's laughter echoed through the chapel, a sound that was both beautiful and terrible.
"The debt will be paid when your line is no more. But there is still one left, hidden from you."
Eamon's blood ran cold. He had heard the rumours, the hushed gossip of a bastard child born to a serving girl years ago. He had ignored them, believing the child long dead, a product of the Magennis curse. But now he understood. The child lived, and the Banshee would not rest until every drop of Magennis blood was spilled. Determined to end the curse, Eamon left the castle that night, his heart filled with a grim resolve. He would find the child and end his line himself, sacrificing his soul if it meant freedom from this relentless terror. The journey took him through frozen bogs and mist-shrouded forests, where even the animals seemed to shy away from his passage, as if sensing the darkness that followed him. At last he came to a small, humble cottage on the outskirts of the village. There he found her, a girl, no more than 7, with eyes that mirrored his own. The child, sensing his presence, looked up from her play with a solemn gaze that seemed far older than her years.
"I knew you would come,"
she said, her voice soft, as if she too had been haunted by the cries of the Banshee. Eamon raised his knife, his hand trembling, But as he looked into her eyes, he saw not a curse, but the fragile hope of redemption. The knife fell from his grasp, clattering to the floor. In that moment, he knew he could not harm her, for she was the last piece of his broken soul. The banshee's wail rose once more, a scream of rage and despair that shook the very earth beneath his feet. But Eamon, for the first time, felt no fear. Instead, he wrapped his arms around the child, holding her close as the wind howled, and the night seemed to close in around them.
"If this is the end,"
he whispered.
"then let it be with mercy."
But the banshee did not come for him that night, nor did she come the next. In the months that followed, the cries ceased, and a strange calm settled over Ballynahinch. The villagers, daring to hope, whispered that perhaps the curse had finally been broken. Almond raised the girl as his own, teaching her the ways of the world with the gentleness of a man who had been to the edge of despair and returned. And though the shadow of the past never fully left him, he found a strange peace in the child's laughter and the warmth of her small hand in his. Yet the story does not end there, for legends never truly die. As the years passed, the girl grew into a woman, and with her a new legend began to take shape, a story of a child born of curse and compassion, a daughter of both darkness and light. And sometimes, on the darkest nights when the wind howled and the river swelled, the villagers would swear they heard a soft, mournful wail carried on the breeze. But it was not the cry of a banshee. It was the cry of a mother who had found, at last, a measure of peace.